So without further ado, I'll turn it over to our relatively new contributor, John.
Yep. Hey there, everyone. I actually don't have a live demo. I mean, I have some screenshots in the PR. If you're interested, you can kind of see what behavior is. Basically, I think Willie, sometime back earlier this year, logged the bug for Stack Overflow issue on the client. It basically what we had was we set up Marquez, set up Open Lineage to extract from Airflow, just some really basic tags for some of our pipelines. And we could see that for quite a few data sets in the lineage graph. When you click through them, everything would work as expected. You'd see the dependencies light up and the graph would never find. However, when you clicked on certain nodes in the graph, it would actually crash the page. You just get a white screen. When you inspect your console, you'd see that maximum call stack size exceeded error. So we were blowing the stack. Upon investigation, it seemed like it was related to when there was a cycle in the lineage graph. So you have some job that's updating a table that some job upstream of that job is reading from. You end up with this graph cycle. A pretty simple fix. It was just we were using a recursive helper function to walk through all of the upstream and downstream dependencies. Eventually, we would get back to the job from where we started and walk through this recursive loop. So just added a base case to track the nodes that we had visited so far and break out of the recursive cycle when we hit another node that we visited. But actually, after just fixing that, you see all of our graphs rendering fine. Even just with the same data we'd already been getting, seemed to be handled fine on the server side, but on the client, where it crashed previously, you see this nice arrow that kind of points back to and represents the cycle correctly. So yeah, pretty, I would say, easy, low effort fix, but definitely a lot of value for my team here in Asana. When I gave the first demo to a few of my close colleagues, they kind of balked at the fact that we could click around in our graph and get crashes all the time. So being able to show how quickly we could fix that upstream and get it deployed on our end was a huge selling point for a lot of our internal folks who are watching this.
Yeah, that's amazing. What was the turnaround time? Because I remember, I guess, Peter, you looked into the PR as well, and we merged that in fairly quickly. But did you use sort of what was in main, or was there official release that you waited for? Because I think you kicked off the release process, right?
Mm-hmm. I would say that, I mean, it was probably only a matter of like 3 or 4 days. Yeah, we spotted the issue on Wednesday or Thursday. I put in a fix like Friday afternoon, and Monday or Tuesday we had the release out. Yeah, it just so happens that with our build systems, it's a little easier to commit it upstream and just use the official image. So yeah, I think pretty good turnaround time for that.
Nice. And the last question for you would be, there was no backend changes, so that the backend still contains that cycle. It's mm-hmm. When you receive it from the front end and you start traversing is when you start looking for whether or not you visited the node and remove or handle the cycle correctly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and John, the other thing you worked on was the depth limitation on the Lineage API. That didn't make it into this release, right?
No, that was just merged earlier, I think maybe yesterday or the day before. So yeah, I'm hoping to kick off a release for that maybe today or tomorrow, possible.
Yeah. Okay, great. And I was just curious, were you seeing kind of performance problems with the higher node depth of graph rendering? What kind of issue were you looking to resolve with that? We're happy to have it, and I know the API offers it as a parameter. So, just curious.
First, it was more like the user experience. We have pretty, we don't have a lot of idempotent like pipelines, so our graph tends to be pretty big. And as a result, if you look at, if you're just looking at one data set, you are probably with the default going to see a pretty massive graph. So I had a couple of people recommend that to me, like if we could add some way of, dragging and zooming around is okay, but it's better if you would just have a smaller graph in general to give you a more simplified view.
Yeah. And you think the smaller graph kind of provides you with enough context for what you're immediately looking at, rather than the whole like massive web that you could have? I don't know what exactly massive means to you. We see thousands and thousands of nodes in graphs, so
yeah, even less than that. So, and we were already kind of finding it a little frustrating to like just follow the line down to another node. So having that, even like starting with a smaller graph, and then if you're interested in the dependencies of one upstream data set, you can just click on that one and get this even smaller representation. Lets you kind of walk through it if that's what you're looking to do.
all right, great, sounds good. Thanks. That's a little off topic, so thanks for elaborating.
Yeah, no worries. I thought of bringing it up because it's hopefully coming out in the next release, but yeah, I'm excited about that one.
And John, you could I know I mentioned in Slack, but if you want to kick off a release, just say, hey, I'm looking to kick off a release, and that starts the voting. So even if you wanted to kick things off today, we're happy to do that. Because I love that button, by the way. It was, we've done a lot on the backend API, and we, also Peter has done great work on the front end, but it kind of like stopped at some certain point just because of our priorities. So it's amazing to see these little tweaks that have high impact. So that's amazing. So just want to say thanks for your contributions.
Yeah, I'm really excited to do more. I'm in an interesting kind of position where I'm like on a data team, but I have a ton of like front end experience. So I'm excited to keep contributing and make the front end as nice as all the back end is for this ecosystem.
Oh, wow. And we're happy to work with you. I think that's great. Feel free to, if you have any issues or any ideas, or if you want feedback, feel free to open up an issue and outline, hey, these are some of the changes I'm thinking about. And we're more than happy to work with you and give you feedback.
So yeah, it sounds great.